Okay, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the most controversial 30 minutes of your week. We're here to do it again. We're going to have a good time doing it, whether we want to or not. So glad everybody's able to join us. So should we jump right into this week's topic du jour, which is the OpenAI launch of the OpenAI deployment company, also known as very, very innovatively known as DeployCo.
Hey, who uses long titles these days? I'm already surprised that the abbreviation has more than 3 letters or characters.
Well, deco, that seems like better to me.
Oh, geez, there we go.
Or maybe decoy. Anyway,
I would. Oh, that's good. I would probably take that though, and make them pay you for it because they might like it now that you said it.
That sounds more creative than DeployCo. It's just way too descriptive.
Yeah.
I'm thinking how I can take decoy and put it into our in the hot seat marketing message positioning. There's an angle there, Michael. The headline is really a decoy.
I mean,
or it could be decontamination.
So to that point on that particular headline, what are some thoughts around this one? Is this hype? Is this real news? What's everyone thinking on this one? Come on, Michael. I know you want to say something.
Yeah, you want to say something. You're already breathing in.
Of course, I have an opinion. I think it's an interesting acknowledgement to the fact that there are an awful lot of companies that are going, what the hell do we do with this? Unfortunately. And it is, obviously, we're still early. Companies are just getting out of pilots. They're, struggling to deal with the change management. I think we've mentioned before this idea that, according to several studies this year, employees are sabotaging AI initiatives when the change management is not done successfully because they feel threatened. No surprise with that. And I think it's just much harder than it sounds to deploy these systems and get agentic systems to work, especially when it seems to me, at least from some of the clients I talk to, it's more of a, why are you doing this? Well, because the board told us to. Well, because our CEO told us to. Well, if that's your reason, don't do it. Seriously, don't do it, because it takes a lot more work than you think. And so, I think it's an interesting initiative, and obviously they're partners with, forward deployed engineers with Bain and Capgemini, McKinsey.
They need something to do now, right?
Well, they do need something to do now. That's fair. And yeah, you got to use your head count or something. And I think that is the opportunity. I get it. There's a lot of work in that world right now. And I think from an OpenAI perspective, they are struggling to get companies to adopt Frontier and move forward with them. And you think about it, like this is an interesting problem, because let's say I'm an Oracle Fusion customer, and Oracle comes to me and says, hey, for no additional cost, here are 600 agents you can use inside of the system you already pay me for. Mm-hmm. Or I can go pay OpenAI for a platform that I have to then build the agents out on and figure out how I'm going to use it. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, but from my perspective, it sure does make a lot more sense to use the thing that I already have that's not going to cost me any extra.
Well, one of the things when you mentioned that workers are sabotaging AI processes, and I think one of the things I think there are 2 things that go with this. One is there are plenty of CEOs who are doing this because, hey, we're supposed to be doing this. They don't have a good reason. The other thing is there are people who are afraid of it without good reason because it's gotten so much publicity that they're afraid their job is being threatened when their job is not being threatened at all.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, unfortunately, you're right. The hype is out there, and people feel threatened, and then at the same time, you've got recent college grads are coming out, and guess what? Entry level jobs, they're just hard to find, and they get harder and harder to find. And we aren't quite mature enough to the point yet where we will admit that we still have to have entry level jobs, because if you don't have entry level jobs, you never have people who are beyond entry level, because they never learn. So what are you going to do? I think some of the hype is wrong, and that we don't have enough good, honest success stories out there that people understand how to go about this. And then the third thing is the methodology of, here, let's go automate this process that we've used for the last 10 years, and it's been broken for the last 12 years. Doing automated things that are broken so they go faster just makes you fail faster. I guess that's maybe, I don't know. But
that was true before AI.
It was, and now it's even more true.
And now it's just exacerbated.
The truth comes out
you
earlier.
can fail a lot faster. I mean, talk about,
we can really screw it up faster.
Machine speed versus human speed. I don't know. I think so, I mean, I do think it's a need, and I do think, I hear this a lot. Who's going to help us do this? And you're right. A lot of those services firms are trying to rethink what they do, because people are spending a lot less money on other enterprise apps and customizations and all the other old things they used to make money on. And by the way, we know that there's a certain amount of disruption from having all of these AI tools available when it comes to services consulting firms. I mean, it makes sense from that perspective. And I guess from their end, it probably is the thing they need to do to figure out a way to drive some adoption.
Well, right. You have to move from the demos to the deployment and scalability, right? And that's where
from D to D.
Wasn't it true that when Siebel first came out, the amount of services that you paid to deploy it was 3 times what the license fees were?
3 to 5 times.
3 to 5, still true. Still true.
But we used to joke about that, because that actually, I mean, at the time I was running service operations at PeopleSoft, and we used to joke about that all the time. Like, it's a good world when you can get 3 to 5 to 7 times your license costs for the services piece. Why wouldn't you want to? I mean, that's why we grew a big services team, because
think about the hook and anchor on that, right? It comes out where when agentic AI came out, it was everybody can do it, right? Easy deploy, everybody can build an agent. And now it's starting to pivot fairly quickly in the grand scheme of things, of like, oh, wait a minute, everybody really can't do this. You can play in your sandbox, you can get it to a certain point, you can do some demos, some pilots, you can do some small scale. But if you really want to go to the big enterprise deployment and scalability, now we're talking, you need consulting services, deployment services, right? It's a new name on something that exists today from a lot of different players, and they're getting right. They're putting their what's that phrase? That they're towing the water with everyone. I mean, this exists, right? Other companies are doing this. They're now just taking a piece of this. What I found really interesting in the article, well, 2 things. The amount of money that has already been invested for this initiative, $4 billion.
Yeah.
$4 billion for this. And if you read what that amount for the initial investment was going to be used for, to scale operations and acquire firms to continue these deployment services. That one just made me kind of stop. And then as I looked at the investors of this, it raised the question to me, well, wait a minute. All of these consulting firms, the McKinsey, Bain, they're all investors in this. What does that mean for services around developing and deploying Claude, Perplexity? Like, does this become a very focused initiative around OpenAI and OpenAI only?
Well, and is it just the next evolution of the reason that you hire a Deloitte or a McKinsey, right? I mean, are we really changing a whole lot, or is this just another thing that you have to implement?
Yeah, for them, it's a kind of a lifeline for some
it is a
while
lifeline
till they figure out a valid business model that, till they figure out that it needs product. In a consulting
McKinsey reps still want to come into the company. They just don't have to carry a briefcase or a DVD with the software on it. Now they come in and go
It's just an evolution.
You need to click here.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about this, the problem is in the enterprise, right? Because the mid-market buyers, they can't afford this anyway. Like it's just it's not a mid-market play, and so there is, if you're in the enterprise, they paid for services for years. It probably does make sense if you're going to go down the frontier, OpenAI path or something similar. But if you're going down the vendor path and you're using Salesforce, Agentforce, or your Oracle or Microsoft, whatever, you can use their services, because guess what? Their people know their products better than any of these outside agents. And you think about it, what's Salesforce going to think if they, in one of their accounts, all of a sudden some DeployCo person shows up to tell their client how to use Salesforce?
But isn't that what happens like with ServiceNow? Right? I mean, I remember I ran a $500,000 ServiceNow implementation in an SMB. And by the time they were done with the $500,000, it was useless. We scrapped it and we started over from scratch and installed it ourselves.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really kind of the same thing, right?
It's the same. It is the same. I honestly do think that. Yeah.
So we're going to call this a marketing headline, or positioning, branding,
it is a little bit of desperation on several companies' parts too. I think
it's defense from both sides, actually.
Yeah.
Especially well, for the consultants, they desperately need some billable hours, and for OpenAI, they are great. Well, from their perspective, how they are perceived, they are great for consumers, and Anthropic is great for business. And
so
they're falling back there, and this is something they need to cover.
The entity we're not talking about is the customer. What the customer needs is what Jeffrey Moore would call a whole product. Like, put this thing in here so that I can use it. Don't just throw it over the fence and expect me to be able to figure out how to retool my business around this thing, when it's way more complicated. And we're talking about a different generation of technology, and just like, that's not a shrink wrap kind of scenario.
Right. Well,
you don't implement the same way you used to. That's correct. It is different, and there's not a lot of knowledgeable help available right now because it's new.
And it's exactly an additional problem that Pete just mentions, that those technology vendors have. They don't have the first clue of business. And they are a supplier for a business application for the whole product that Pete just mentioned. And they of course want to own the customer relationship.
Well, I have a lot of former students from Germany who used to work for SAP, who now work for SAP consulting firms. Those firms are completely independent of SAP, but come in and effectively translate SAP for business.
No matter how you slice and dice it, anytime you go into a company and you use the words, you need implementation services, you need deployment services, you need development services, wrap up any of those three terms, what's the one word that you think about immediately? The word that jumps to my mind is
I'm not sure
complex.
I can say that in public.
Right? It's complex. It's difficult. It's almost as though what I mentioned earlier, right? When the agentic AI came out and the concept of, hey, everybody and anybody can do it. You can all be developers. You can all be, process engineers. It's now like, wait a minute, huge flaw in that strategy, right? And now this is way more complex. So
there was a wall that we are ready to hit.
Yeah. So
Well, and to be fair, the whole approach we've used to change management is designed around a much simpler transformation. And there's a good bit of argument now that is, we need to rethink how we approach this, because the failures over the last year, the documented agentic implementation failures are almost completely tied to human problems, not agent problems.
No.
It's not the technology, but how you implement the technology, how you go through the change. And I was talking to a guy I'm going to interview on my on Disambiguation shortly about this. He's an expert in change management, and his statement to me was, we need to do away with the term change management because it leads you down the wrong path. What you need is considerably heavier lifting than what is in your mind when you think change management, because this is a completely different model and a completely different kind of technology and a completely different kind of transformation.
It's more, it's more transformational. It's not just change. I can change my hat. I don't transform my hat.
And this brings us to the topic that those deploy codes of every nature, and I mean, OpenAI, it's not the only one, does not address, because the main problem is not that, or the second main problem is not that these things just don't work for my business, but they don't work because I'm not prepared for them from a data point of view.
Correct.
Right.
So this is what they do not address. This is what they do not address.
Right.
So
because I mean, the technology works. The technology works fine, but the problem is if you don't go into this with the idea that I'm going to understand my process first and then automate the process using this, and over time build trust and make sure that my workforce comes along with me, then you are going to fail. Like that, I don't think there's any question about that, because this is a extremely complicated transformation.
Just back from a vendor conference, they are marketing themselves as runs on day one, 30 or 50% automation after 3 weeks of
purely plug and
those
play,
processes. Right? And the customers that have been on the same panels that say, this is a long process to get there so that you can hit the start button at all.
Well, if you think of it, if you think of automation, full automation as your goal, if that's where you're really trying to go, you're not going to go, okay, we deployed this, now turn it on. Oop, okay, we're good. We're going to go full automatic. Yay. No, you're going to do this over a period of time. You're going to test it. You're going to do a proof of concept. You're going to roll it out, and you're going to do human in the loop. And then you're going to move to human on the loop, maybe. And then maybe eventually you move to human in the lead, and and you're fully automated. But it's not this is not a thing that's going to, especially in a large enterprise, the risk is huge. And just a simple implementation of a customer service agent, automated customer service agent that's talking to all of your customers. So, what's the risk there? Well, the risk is that if you have a customer service agent that's not specifically trained on what's acceptable as cultural and, authority and all of those things inside of your business, it's going to make a mistake. It is. The risk is huge. And it can make a lot of customers angry in a really short period of time, which I'm pretty sure is not what you were trying to do when you implemented it.
You're also asking the people whose job might be replaced, you're asking them to help you implement this thing that's going to replace them. The other,
that's what they think anyway. I mean,
that's the point of it.
Well, the other thing is these people already have a job, so now you're asking them to do more. They already have a job that is presumably taking up their day, and now you say, okay, oh, by the way, now implement this.
That's every implementation that's ever been done.
Right, but Deborah is going to take that off everybody's
absolutely. It's a magic bullet right there. Awesome.
So I have a question, because if you talk to enough people in the industries and they talk about market valuations for businesses, they always say if you have a product, don't add services, because services devalue your company. Your valuation is less. So what happens now? Like, are
Well,
you
That- I
valuing?
mean,
That's why it's a
this is-
separate company.
I actually think this is a broken paradigm. I
Yeah.
think that is, in fact,
Okay.
truly what we used to think until we
Okay.
went into a world
Yeah.
where you cannot do this without outside
Yeah.
help. You
Yeah.
just can't. If you're an enterprise, small to medium business,
Mm.
maybe there's a different approach. Maybe
Mhm.
somebody could design a product targeted towards them and make it
Mm.
simpler and have a lot of prepackaged things. And oh wait, that's the next story.
That's our next
next
headline.
Yeah.
Way to segue. I think we should bring
Is that
But
that
good? I
just-
thought that was.
Yeah,
Well,
we have
well,
about 10
quite-
minutes
quite
left.
the
I think we
segue,
should
yeah.
bring that
Quite
one
the
right
segue.
up.
They sell aircraft engines with services.
I mean,
I
everything
mean,
has a service.
they sell aircraft engines,
Rolls-Royce,
and there's somebody monitoring that engine while it's in the air to make sure it's not going to fall apart.
Well,
The
I'm
service-
happy that the airline's paying people to do engine
Yeah.
services.
Yeah,
on
seriously,
the
I
engine. I'm
would-
good with that. Trust
That's a
me.
good
Hey,
thing.
implementation, service, maintenance, you name it.
Anything you want to, and I'm that guy who goes. They go, we have a problem with the plane and it's going to be delayed 2 hours, and people are upset. I'm like, oh no, thanks.
Yeah, no, I'll
Appreciate
take it.
Exactly.
Good job.
Michael, kind of steering back to where you were going with this when you were talking about entering into our second headline that was in the news that I think is. Let's use the last 10 minutes to.
We're going to get to 2 headlines today.
We
That's
are.
pretty good.
We are.
I know.
So
There.
Anthropic, right? Going
Yes.
after and tailoring a product to small business.
Mhm.
Brilliant. Or
It
not
is
brilliant.
brilliant, and if you think about
Yes.
this, there's a much more compelling use case for a small or a mid-sized business than there is for the enterprise.
Yeah.
Because I'm already resource constrained if I'm a small
Mhm.
business,
Mhm.
and I have to compete not in a global marketplace against not just my little small competitors, but against some gigantic competitors.
Yeah.
And the agentic workflow and addition of agentic agents could mean a huge difference for a small business. So there's a huge demand there, and the simpler you can make it, the better and the more likely it is to succeed.
Yeah, the more you can bring those wrappers in
Simple as,
and
Yeah.
make them a part of the solution for a smaller enterprise, which is going to, when we look at where this impact is going to hit probably the hardest, I'm looking at those connector company, right? The API companies that the small businesses always use. Now, when this headline came out, there's a bit of a panic, right? Because you're taking 30 of the most popular applications that people would build connectors for using other systems to get things in and out is now all packaged into my license.
Mhm.
One, yeah, and
Thank you very much.
And they
Right?
start with, especially is important for SMBs, they start where there is no revenue stream incoming from me. So they start automating stuff away that costs me the time to actually serve my client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I,
so
I think
It's, yeah.
I think this is even a bigger move and statement when you think
Yeah.
about how important of a technology Anthropic is making Claude become for the smaller enterprise. It is becoming, it is with that focus, it's changing where smaller enterprise, in my opinion, where smaller businesses are going to start to focus from a bring this into my company and let's build the foundation on everything that I'm working with on this. I mean, that's
Well-
a pretty interesting shift if you think about it, because smaller companies are usually like, give me these 5 smaller products. I can run them all disparately. They're all going to do things to help my business along. And now Claude is, here you go, one license and you do it all.
Yeah.
So quick survey of the 4 of us here who own a small business. How many of us are actually looking into Claude SMB?
I already use Claude extensively. So
Yeah, I've used Claude extensively too, and
I do too.
I don't run many of those products, well, the Google Workspace, which it is integrated to for quite some time, but all the other stuff, I mean, I would be stupid to buy a HubSpot. for example.
Right.
Well,
But-
it's integrating with Zoho, which, as you know, I use to run my business.
And Zoho has a very
That's what I'm looking at.
Zoho has a nicely working MCP server for.
Yeah,
well,
they
some
do,
leads
and
only,
the integration works
which
great,
works,
and the
it
same thing
works,
with
and-
Google. It works great. I mean, having it, you know, whenever Claude does anything for me, it delivers the document in Google Drive in the folder I told it to put it in.
Yeah.
You know,
So
it's very good.
Yeah.
So
and-
much for attracting HubSpot as a sponsor to the show there, Thomas. Well done. The one comment
there's anyway a company that already has too much mind share, but that's another.
The other thing I
point.
thought about in terms of from the customer's perspective is this. It's kind of like how drones have really changed warfare. It allows smaller businesses to have this sort of asymmetric strategy against these larger players, where it changes how much capital they need and the level of scale that they can hit, and so it's no question that the fit with SMB is so much more straightforward than larger companies.
Productivity dramatically from the resources you already have. You can get away with a lot less, you know, adding extra people and be more competitive.
And it's a very strong counter move to deploy code, because my stuff just works. Why do you need a bunch of engineers?
No, I thought it was great to see the two announcements come out the same week.
But hasn't Anthropic also just inked relationships with a number of the top 4 as well? But I think that they just haven't created their own internal division to sort of compete with those partners. But I think that they've just signed something with Deloitte and maybe KPMG.
I'm sure they have, right? I mean,
for basically the same
if you're
kind
Anthropic,
of
you'd be
stuff.
smart not, to do it. Because, right? I mean, you wouldn't want to be left out. That's fair.
These consulting companies want to walk in with a portfolio in their hand saying, we know how to do this. We know how you should do this. It's Anthropic. First of all, it draws a lot of attention. Second of all, it doesn't seem to have drawn as much negative attention as OpenAI has. I don't think OpenAI was helped that much by the recent trial. I think it made it look like a sandbox fight between 5-year-olds.
I know Michael's like, I'm ready. I said stand down on that topic.
Yeah, she wouldn't let me talk about that one. She knew that one would be
I stuck it in.
That was just throwing gasoline on that fire.
I mean,
okay, but here's 3 questions for y'all. One, there was a topic that we did not get to today that was we were talking this week that I do think we should, even though it's not going to be this week's headlines, still discuss next week, which is the layoffs topic, because I think there's a really interesting angle there to dive into with the layoff announcements coming out from Meta this week.
Oh, that'll be hot.
So there's a teaser for y'all. Come back next week.
That seat will be hot.
But back to this week's headlines, and like kudos everyone, we got to 2 of them.
Better than last week.
Is it hype or heat on OpenAI one? Let's go. Hype or heat? Heat. Okay.
To me, it's just normal. It's like this is what that's why I brought up Siebel. It's been going on for 35 years.
Am I hearing hype from you? I hear hype.
No, he's saying it.
He's what?
I'm speaking for him, and
please do.
Well, once you've been married that long,
don't let Jody do it.
I'd say Anthropic, and then I'd say OpenAI.
Oh, I like this. Let's add this into.
I do too.
I like that. Okay.
I do too.
Okay, so OpenAI, everybody, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Oops, wrong one. Sorry.
Oh, we convinced you.
I switched the Mac feature off.
Anthropic.
I left mine on. I like
Claude for small business. Oh, look at this. We are all across the board on that one.
We are in agreement. Wow. What's that?
We did something.
That's just a topic we can all agree on.
It was, but Cool.
That shouldn't happen. Well, we make it hot for the vendor then, right? Not for us.
Well,
I mean, that is
so
part of the point.
Let's stop here before we completely ruin all of our friendships.
That almost happened in the prep session.
Won't happen.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Won't happen.
But thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this week. I hope this 30 minutes was valuable to everybody who tuned in. And join us next week when it may be just a little more contentious. We'll see then.
You never
Bye,
know.
everybody.
See you
Bye.
next.